Good morning. Welcome to Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with producer Alden Iwani. Our special guest today is Espanola boys head basketball coach, Gabe Martinez. Coach, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Coach, Sun Devils on a roll, 10 of the last 12. You and I have talked. Actually, it's always a pleasure. You and I talked last summer, and we talked about the building of a program. You're a former player at Rio Grande High School under Wally Salata, also in northern New Mexico with Ryan Cordova, and you took over for Coach Branch there at Espanola a couple of years ago. Talk about the progression of the building of the program, and you talked about that to me, the development of strength, shooting, the fundamentals of basketball. But there's more to it than that. And talk to us a little bit about where the Sun Devils are now. Very impressive streak to end the season.
Yeah, definitely. All I can say is I'm extremely proud of these amazing group of young men that I've had the pleasure of coaching. Over the past 3 years, I've developed some really awesome relationships, and I've got to know these guys. Coming in and just trying to instill, your program and what it is that you do, how you do it. I will be the first to admit to you, I am semi OCD when it comes to doing things, touching lines, running plays the right way, setting screens, and I think it was an adjustment period. Boys had to get used to me. I had to get used to them. And as the years have progressed, they know what I expect, in practice, in games, and they've done an amazing job. And I think that over the past 3 years, we've had successful years. My first year there, we made it to the quarterfinals, the Elite Eight, and we lost to Gallup in the pit. Year number two, you were actually calling our game when we played against Del Norte in the state semifinals in Del Norte, and that was a hell of a game there. We landed up losing in overtime, and this year we've got back on it. We've done all the little things, and we put in the work, the time, the effort, and now we're back in a rematch. And I'm pretty sure we'll get to talk about that here pretty soon. We're in a rematch with Del Norte in the Elite Eight, and this time we have them, and we're hosting them at our place, and it'll be exciting. I'm excited for how the program's building and how we're looking.
That matchup last year could have gone either way. It could have gone either way. A bounce here, a call there. You actually led in regulation. Del Norte had to come back behind Roman Heilman, who coached Jaron McIntosh, the defending champs. Jaron McIntosh, one of the best coaches in this is a class filled with great coaches. Great coaches. Yourself, Justin Woody, Coach Cita Baca, Coach Mondragon. There's so many great coaches in this class, and Jaron McIntosh is definitely one of them. He put Ramon Heilman in, who's a sophomore, and he came in with some big plays, right, in overtime. And it was just, again, a call here, a call there. I happened to talk to your wife after the game. It was a great game, a great basketball game. And tomorrow night it's a rematch against Del Norte, but this time at the Valley, in the Valley, at your home court. And Coach, talk a little bit about Espanola Valley, who's a two-time state champion, right? Richard
Yes, sir.
Martinez winning two state championships there. Uh, James Branch getting to a state championship in 2018, I believe, or 2018 or 2019. Talk about you posted something on Facebook last night about the past crowds. Talk about the enthusiasm of the fans in Espanola.
Oh man. Sometimes there's been several games throughout the past 3 years, before the game starts or during the game, it's almost like surreal, right? You look around, you can feel the energy in the building. Sometimes it gets so loud you can't even hear yourself think. We've we've had to make a lot of adjustments in far as game plans because when that gym gets rocking, my voice and I can get pretty loud. My voice only carries maybe 10 feet in front of me. So, we've had to make adjustments and as far as that, but it's amazing. I think the best fan base in the state of New Mexico, hands down. Just the other day when we played Taos in Taos for the district tournament championship, we only took up about maybe a third of the gym, our crowd, and our crowd showed up that night. We had a lot of fans, and it was roaring in there, Ed. I mean, roaring. I mean, it was an amazing atmosphere. It was so fun. We've had it at home games. And the crazy thing is I've seen some really good crowds over the past couple of years. And then someone shared a post with me and said, "Coach, you got to see what the crowds used to look like in the late '90s and the early 2000s." And they sent me a post, and you see, I don't know if you got to see it, but
I did.
it looks like there's 5,000 fans packed in there, and it's just amazing, you know. So like the support the community gives towards basketball, I'm always kind of relating it to like Friday Night Lights in Texas for football. That's how Espanola is about their basketball. They love it. They support it. They're really great with their athletes and supporting the program. And you honestly can't ask for much more. It's been amazing as far as all that kind of stuff.
Going to be a great basketball atmosphere tomorrow night in Espanola for sure, as the Knights will come Del Norte beating Silver. As you mentioned, you had a big win last week as well against Los Alamos, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, Coach, you again asked, as you mentioned, for a better atmosphere tomorrow night. I'm jacked up thinking about it because again, we're coming out of COVID, right? So we didn't get the this. Somebody mentioned this to me. This is the first normal tournament we've had in what, a couple of years, because they did have it in 2020, and then they didn't let the fans in the pit, and we understand, right? They had to do what they had to do, and then
Mm-hmm.
last year, a limited amount. This year, no restrictions. And so I did Farmington and La Cueva a couple of weeks ago, girls game at La Cueva, and the Farmington fans, they traveled well. So you're going to have Espanola fans in full force tomorrow night. And you mentioned a game that you posted. It looked like there was. I've broadcast that 2011 championship game and also the 2015. I was at both of them broadcasting, and the fan support that Espanola gets is unbelievable. But on the other end of that, tell us, Coach, what concerns you about the defended champions, the Del Norte Knights?
I think there's like a common misconception. People will look at their record or the seed that they got. I will tell you right now, Del Norte is not an 11 seed. They're not. They're a hell of a program. They got great basketball players. They got a really great coach. Like you said, in Duran, and they're a good team. Like we talked about a little bit before we came on air, they did lose Feathers, Valencia, and the big man in the middle. But they also have Harrison Frank this year. Tejas is playing really well. Of course, you got your two main guys in Judah Casals, Shane Doma Sanchez. They, what they lack in size, they make up and they're scrappy. We've been watching a lot of film on them. They handle their business even against bigger teams. And I'm not sure if you watched the second time they played against Highland, and Murillo's he's a big boy, man. He's athletic and he can really play the game. And I thought Del Norte did a really great job at trying their very best to neutralize him, and they did a great job. So I'm telling you guys right now, for them to be considered an 11 seed, they're a really good team with some good ball players. But I will tell you what, so are we. We got a lot of guys who can play the game of basketball in our program, and I think it's going to be a good old fashioned clash of the Titans.
Everybody's looking, like I said, the legendary Henry Tafoya, who you welcomed into Espanola Valley last Saturday. I talked to him yesterday. He was so touched that the way you treated him with respect. He's a legend, right? He does more for high school sports and than anyone I know. I actually broadcast a game up there in Espanola with him several years ago when they played Hope, and it was a sellout, man. I still remember calling that game with him. But he was impressed by the way your team plays, by the speed of the game that they play, the fundamentals. He was so impressed with your program, and it's one that you built. You mentioned, Coach, it takes time. They had to get used to you, right? Coach Branch is a heck of a coach, man. He's a legend himself. There's another Northern New Mexico legend, right? You came from Albuquerque. You played under Coach Wally Salata here. We mentioned that at Rio Grande, and you played with Coach Cordova. Both great guys. I happened to see Coach Cordova on Saturday night, and Coach Salata is a very good friend of mine, very good friend. What did you take from both of them at the high school level? You still talk to Coach Salata. You still, I'm sure, touch base with Coach Cordova. What did you take from them as far as developing your own coaching philosophy?
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty interesting. We don't realize when we're coming up as players that we're actually being molded, right? So you're playing for different coaches, you're learning different styles, you're learning different systems, you're learning different offensive philosophies, defensive philosophies. how one coach runs one thing, how another coach runs something else. And as a player, you're just trying to soak everything in as a sponge, right? And then when you make that transition into coaching, you kind of put your own twist on things, but you definitely keep different techniques, areas, strategies from each coach because you're learning. The game of basketball and coaching is all, people copying each other. And,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a lot of
Yeah.
people don't want to admit it, but people
No,
copy
they
each
do. Yeah.
other, copy each other's systems, and it's just how you want to implement yours. And what you do is you learn something from this coach, you learn something from this coach, and maybe you kind of mix them together with each other. And, you do things, but I definitely learned things from Coach Salata that I've kept. I've learned things from Coach Cordova that I've kept, and I do keep in contact with both of them. Me and Coach Salata were on the phone the other night. We're talking. We have a good relationship. Same with me and Coach Cordova. Coach Cordova is a mentor of mine, someone that I'll always look up to. We had some really great years there. Me playing for him at Northern. Learned a lot from him. A lot of my coaching style and things that I've learned, come from him. I still implement, things that I've learned in his program. And of course, you venture out, you try to be creative, you try to, create some of the things that you want to do, and you want to create your own identity as a coach as well.
It's funny you mentioned that you were the conference player of the year, I believe, with Coach Cordova. Is that right?
Yes, sir. My senior year.
So,
Yes, sir.
and I actually called that conference tournament. Man, that I'll tell you what, there was a lot of, and that's what I think people don't understand too, Coach. Right? I cover the Lone Star Conference for Western New Mexico, and there is a boodle, of abundance of talent out there, abundance of talent up there in Northern New Mexico, where Coach Cordova coaches, an abundance of talent, the teams that they play. So you got to compete against some very high quality ball players in the conference. You guys had a very good team too, very good team. A
Very.
couple of breaks go here and there in that tournament, you win it. And I remember there's just a couple of games right near the end that things didn't go right for Northern New Mexico, but it was close. Then that's the difference, Coach. Right? Sometimes between winning and losing, as it happened last year, a call here, a break here. Sometimes they bounce your way, and sometimes they don't. But lately, for the Sun Devils, 10 of 12, they've been bouncing your way.
Yeah, I think these overtime games are haunting me. We lost, my senior year in college, we lost in double. It was either double overtime or triple overtime in the conference championship game. We landed up losing. And then last year, we lost in overtime to Del Norte. And I'm just joking. I don't believe in jinxes or
Yeah,
any
yeah.
anything like that. But it was kind of funny because I hadn't even put two and two together until you brought it up. So now I hope we don't have no overtime games. I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I definitely think that it's been a heck of a journey. I enjoy it. I'm blessed. I thank God every day for just blessing me with the opportunity to continue to be around the game of basketball that I love. Coaching is, you get a chance to try to, pass things down to this next generation of kids and young men as they're growing up and hoping that you can impact their lives in more than just, on the court things, and you can teach them things and build them up and hopefully teach them life lessons that they can use, for years on end.
You've
And
certainly done that. Coach, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about this year's version of the Espanola Sun Devils after these messages on the sports desk.
Twisting shot, rebound, and denied.
Great hustle by Dial, but great hustle by Alves to stay with it. The other team blocks your shot, just get it back and score like that. Noodles Alves. So
the first quarter, they could not execute and get a shot off. Back to James. Boy, he passed up an open look. Instead, underneath. Defenders both missed, and it's up and in. The layup underneath for Demers.
Absolutely excellent decision there to go.
T. Hill just able to hold it down. Here's Natalia Chavez for three.
turns it over. Hill races back to get it. Oh, good spin move. Lays up, and it's good.
Chargers lead under 30 to play. Hernandez steps into a three-ball, ring it up, nothing but nylon.
Either can Gabe Trujillo. El Dorado can flip this around, and there it is. I said that Parham can dunk. Parham obviously heard the challenge.
Wade throws it down, one-handed hammer.
A three-point lead here, 20 seconds remaining in the game. And that three-pointer is good by Brandon Lagunas for his 20th point of the game. 8 seconds to go. Caleb Parham. Fadeaway J. That's good. And at the end of the game, wow. Students rush the court. What a performance.
The energy landscape is limitless and ever-changing. Cleaner energy resources are crucial to New Mexico's environment. For 100 years, PNM has utilized cutting-edge technology and employed hard-working New Mexicans to ensure that we have consistent, reliable energy when we need it. For life's loudest moments, quietest moments, and every moment in between. We're dedicated to providing you with energy now and into the future. All you have to do is dream of what to do with it next.
For your business or your home, Valley Fence stands alone. We're number one in New Mexico for a reason. It's the best fence you can own. Proudly serving New Mexico for over 50 years. At Valley Fence, the difference is clear. No fence too big, too small, or difficult. We handle them all at Valley Fence Company.
A burglary takes place in the United States approximately every 15 seconds. International Protective Service is your answer for commercial and residential security in all of Albuquerque. IPS will work with your monitoring company for fast, reliable response times. You can rest easy knowing you, your family, or your company is watched over by International Protective Service. Call International Protective Service today.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with Espanola boys head coach Gabe Martinez. Coach, so great to have you on. You and I talked about you. In fact, I saw you at Rio Rancho December, said we got to get you on. We finally did. We're sure glad to have you.
Listen, like I said, it's a pleasure to be here. You know, as we were talking in the break, there's nothing better than two basketball guys talking basketball, right?
Never gets any better than that. I've got a quote from you from someone that knows you. Very good friend of mine, as I mentioned. Yes, I did coach Gabe at Rio Grande. Great young coach with lots of passion and energy. Reminds me of me back in the day. He's done a great job with Espanola. I respect Gabe for what he did, even without his best player, even without him. They're still a 3 seed and playing good basketball right now. I'm proud of him. Comes from Rio Rancho head coach Wally Salata.
Hey, thank you, Coach Salata. I mean, you know, there's nothing like having great mentors. You know, I think a common misconception is that when you start coaching and you're a head coach, that you're not always learning, and you are. You know, who am I to say I know everything, because I don't. So I lean on the coaches that have coached me, mentors, people that I look up to. You know, I love John Wooden. You know, just watching Coach Wooden. I mean, there's so many people out there. And, you know, Coach K, I mean, you can read books, you can learn. And, you know, I'll reach out to Coach Salata, Coach Cordova, other coaches that I know, and I'll pick their brains, you know, and I don't think that there's nothing wrong with that. And it's just great to, like you just said, during the break. It's great to learn from one another, to grow. I know you said, talking to Coach Joyce, just learning different things, because everyone has a different outlook, everyone has a different philosophy, and if you could learn, one or two things from each person that you could implement in your own life or in your own system, it's a positive.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Everybody learns from everybody, and then you might have a different outlook on how to deal with somebody, a player. I might have a different outlook, and together it meshes, right? You deal with them, the good cop, bad cop, or however. You got a great staff there at Espanola Valley too, Coach. You hit a couple of roadblocks here. Just one in the season. There's a period where you lost three straight, right? And you turned it around. And I remember reading the scores to myself, thinking, you and I talked about it. You had mentioned, hey, we're going to have a good team. We talked about this summer, but through the adversity, talk a little bit about that. You had to dismiss one of your better players, and things moved on. You said that to me. The team has moved past it. You've moved past it. The Sun Devils are 10-10 their last 12. The team has moved past it. Talk a little bit about the adversity, your roster, and how you overcame some adversity to be where you're at today.
Yeah, I think, just in life in general, everyone has to overcome any adversity to get where they are, right? People think that life is just like this smooth, everything's on just this track upwards, but that's the farthest from the truth. Anyone that's lived life knows that you hit bumps in the road, you have different obstacles, different trials, tribulations that you go through, and our roster at the end of last year looked one way. And by the beginning of the season, we had some injuries, we had someone, not return to school. And then, we had, like you said, a dismissal from the team. But through all of that, our players have just adapted. The adversity, didn't affect them. They're strong. They're a great young group of boys. Actually, I call them young men because it's crazy. Like, my guys that I've had since they were sophomores, and now they all look like men. They're like grown men. It's crazy to see the transformation that they've had, and I'm proud of each and every one of them. Being able to deal with the adversity and stay strong. Having that next man up mentality. But that's not to say that anyone who's ever been in my program, the guys that are not on our roster this year, that were on our roster last year, I still care deeply about them. I care about each and every one of them. I still care about them, want nothing but the best for them. And, that's the part about coaching, that may go misunderstood is, when things don't necessarily, always work out the way you want them to, people don't realize, coaches still genuinely care about their players, past, present, future. It's just who we are as human beings. And, but to get back to the team this year, dealing with the adversity and coming strong, we've had so many guys step up. I'm so proud of the guys that we have. They've done an amazing job. I've had some guys, Marin, Andre, Jet, Ricky, Marcus, Clarice, Malachi. I have so many guys who have stepped up big time. Jaden. I'm proud of my whole roster. I could probably just name all of them off to you, and maybe even give you something that I think every coach around the world talks about. Your team is only as strong as all 15 guys. It doesn't matter who starts, who's the 15th guy on the roster or anything. You're only as strong as your whole team is together. I'm always telling the guys about like an electric current, right? If there's a short, as electricity is trying to run through something, if there's one short and someone's not on the same page, we're not all bought in and focused on the same goal, that means there's going to be a short and it's not going to function properly or be, up to its full potential. So that's just stuff we talk about, man. I'm so proud of them, and God willing, God can bless us, and we can continue making some noise in the state tournament and moving forward.
Yeah, you mentioned that about the family and the current, and just your approach to things. You're a very positive person, very faith driven. And I want to ask you about this. You mentioned this. Your father David, I see all the time. He's so proud of you. It's brave. Even when I saw him in northern New Mexico when we broadcast the tournament, he was so proud. Always making sure he said his prayers, blessings, right? He believes that. Even last year when you lost to Del Norte, I happened to see him up top after the game, and sure he's disappointed, but he didn't badmouth anyone. He just saying, look, it just didn't go our way, right? Talk a little bit about him. Your mother actually moved up with you to Espanola. you got her as part of your family unit. Talk about how important your family, your immediate family unit, your wife, I see your son and you on Facebook once in a while. You're teaching him. He's going to be a young player too, and that's got to be exciting for you. Talk a little bit about how important your family unit is to the success of you as a man, as a coach, husband, father. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the aspect of having a close family started since I was young. My dad, my mom have always been involved in my athletics, and it branched out even farther than that. I can't tell you how much my grandparents supported me throughout the years on both sides. My grandparents on my mom's side and my dad's side, they went to all my basketball games. They supported me, and that family tradition and aspect that was introduced into my life, it never left. Our immediate family is still really close. My dad, my mom, they support me. And then, of course, my wife, we've been together since my senior year of high school. We have a child together, my son, and they've been there and they've supported me through and through, thick and thin, ups and downs, the middle grounds, everything in between. They're always there. I can always count on them. And family is a huge aspect. You go to games now, like if you're at the Del Norte game on Wednesday, tomorrow night, you'll see my dad, you'll see my mom, you'll see my son, my sister will be there, my niece and nephew, they're going to be there supporting. So, the family is still really strong. We support each other. And I'm glad we were able to talk about that. Family, if you guys are watching, I love you guys. Thank you for the support.
That's got to mean so much to you because I think to me, I kind of aspire to the same thing, right? My son and I, we've been lucky. I actually lasted long enough to play some competitive hoops with him. Taught him a few lessons, even though I was older, right? We coached together. We broadcast together. So we've been able to enjoy this game on several different levels. And sometimes I have to look at it like, gosh, now I've seen him become a play-by-play broadcaster. And like I told you, he's got a long way to go. But the sharing of the game together, and you and your dad, your grandparents, when I hear that, and I know they're at your games back in the day at Rio Grande when you played for Coach Salata out there, even at northern New Mexico when they could be. It doesn't get any better. That's whenever I talk to you, when we've had several conversations, Matt, several.
Yes,
We'll have several more. It's just to check in. You're a very inspirational leader. That's the leadership thing. God, that's so important, right? And everybody's got a different leadership manner. Teron McIntosh is different than Justin Woody, different than Gabe Martinez. But man, to lead these young men into battle tomorrow night, again, you're right back where you were last year, Coach. And it doesn't seem that long ago because we started the season late, right, and ended it late. It's got to be a surreal moment.
Oh, it is. I think we enjoy every moment of it. And, that's something you can ask my players. They're probably sick of my heart-to-heart talks. They're probably like, man, Coach talks a lot, right? So sometimes when we end practice and I get rumbling and get talking, but, I'm telling them to enjoy every moment because I think there comes a time in our lives when we look back at these specific moments. Like when me and you, we reminisce about the times that we've had, games we've played, players we played against, big championship games or things that happened. And sometimes when you're young, you don't soak it in the way, and I'm always telling them, like, enjoy the moment. These are going to be the memories you guys are talking about 20 years from now. You and your friends are going to be enjoying a meal or doing something, and you guys are going to be talking about, hey, do you remember we played, Del Norte in the semifinals? And now, of course, tomorrow they're going to create more memories. And I think, it is surreal. It's surreal because even as I'm getting older, I have to learn how to take in each moment and enjoy it for what it is and not, be looking too far in the future and just enjoy the now.
Kind of hard to do that. Coach Martinez, tell you what, thank you so much for being our guest, and we wish you the best of luck tomorrow night against the Del Norte Knights. ProView Networks has extensive coverage. Sports Primo will have the coverage of your game tomorrow night in Espanola, and we wish you all the luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Everyone watching, God bless. Hope you guys are all doing well.
For producer Alden Iwani, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next week on the Sports Desk.